Greetings and welcome to another Fake Grant Order video. So we just got the announcement yesterday afternoon that the GudaGuda Re-Lite event is coming back, and this is one of the first basically super relaxed events that we got when the game first came out, and it's definitely relaxing that the farming is relatively easy. The rewards are something, well, outside of Nobunaga herself, the craft distance is relatively skippable, and it's very easy to pretty much buy everything in the store if you so wish. But let's go into the actual event and see what we're talking about here. Obviously starting with Nobunaga herself. So as you can see, Nobunaga is pretty much a 4-star archer in every sense of the word. Double arts, double buster deck definitely make her a very solid servant. However, she is definitely one of the best 4-star archers in the game for a couple of reasons. Well, the first is her deck. She has a very solid. Her buster cards deal 4 damage as well as her arts cards deal 4 attacks, yes that. Meaning she has a relatively easy time in charging up her Noble Phantasm. And when it comes to raw damage outside of the Noble Phantasm, she definitely deals a decent amount with her 4 hit cards. Now let's look at her skills here. Now this is one of the things that makes her an excellent all-rounded servant. Increases the entire party's MP generation for 3 turns, 20 to 30%. This is definitely something that is going to be very useful from here on out with the introduction of the break bars on bosses. So if you haven't really realized or you just started, bosses now have multiple HP bars, and once you break a bar during a turn, you can't do any more damage past that during the turn, and then they get completely healed up and get a new bar, and that usually comes in with a certain type of effect depending on the boss. So being able to charge Noble Phantasms relatively quickly after you use them is definitely something that is very sought after these days. And having 2 arts cards in the deck is definitely going to mean you can pair her up with a couple of arts archers and have a very decent time with it. So this skill is definitely decent. But her second skill is the reason why she is considered a very nice damage dealer in a very niche scenario. And that is this: increases own damage against divine enemies for 1 turn. 50 to 100%. So as you can see, this is a very niche ability in that it only deals damage against divine enemies. However, let's take a look at who is actually a divine enemy, shall we? These are all the divine servants in the game. So as you can see, there's quite a significant amount of them, and a lot of them are definitely 5-star servants that you end up fighting against in stories, essentially. So here we got a Reshkigao, let's see, where is, Nidokris, Rongliang, and a bunch of other servants that we are yet to get in the game that are definitely decent. So against divine enemies, it's definitely not bad. But that is only the servants. Let's take a look at enemy traits. Large, Roman writing, Queen, any divine here. Here we go, divine. Okay, here we go. So the Sphinxes are divine, Raikyo's divine, these things from Babylon are divine. Okay, I see a corrupted berserker there, So yeah. And Tiamat herself, she's also divine as well. So as you can see, Nobunaga has a very good time dealing damage against those enemies. But that's not all she has. Let's take a look at her third skill, which really pushes her into the strong damage dealing role for 1 turn. And that is increase own critical star absorption and own critical damage for 3 turns. Stay hornet of 600% absorption and 20 to 50% extra damage. So her second and third skills are the reason why she can do a significant amount of damage. So if you pair her up with somebody that gives a significant amount of stars like Jack or the other servant we're going to talk about, and you manage to get her Noble Phantasm and her 2 buster cards with 100% critical rate on this turn, and you're fighting a divine enemy along with something with also that has riding, you can deal a great amount of damage during that turn. Now let's see, increase on debuff resistance on critical damage. Okay, so pretty standard. However, her Noble Phantasm, because you're going to have her at level 5 pretty much, it's going to be 500% damage, but here's the extra good stuff. Deals extra damage to riding enemies. So if we go back to the traits and we go back to the servants, so you can see riding basically interesting. So Raikyo, Heroine X during her event, and these 2 servants have riding. And then if we go into here, element should be over here. And if you go down to the riding, there we go. All of these servants also have the riding skill, which means they take extra damage from her Noble Phantasm. Unfortunately, it is a AoE Noble Phantasm, so it doesn't hit particularly hard, but hey, you can't have everything on a servant. But even with all that said and done, Nobunaga is definitely a very solid servant and considered one of the best 4-star archers in the game because of all her kit put together. Not only that, because she's free, you will always have her at MP level 5 and have a very decent time with her. So if you don't have her, make sure you work your butt off and get her. She is definitely worth having on your deck, well, among your servants. However, that is not the only servant. That is the free servant of the event. However, during this time, you will also have your either first or second chance, depending on getting Okita Shoji. Now, she was, I believe, the first quick focus servant in the game, I think. I do think Jack came shortly after her. So let's take a look at her, shall we? So 2 quicks and 1 art stack makes her a relatively decent at generating critical stars and charging her own MP. Unfortunately, her buster, she does have 2 buster cards, which makes her slightly less effective at creating critical stars for herself to use. Now, the best critical star generator in the game is still Jack. As you can see, Okita has 10.2% per attack. Now, if you look at here, it says that her quick cards hit 5 times. Every single one of those individual 5 hits has a 10.2% chance of generating a critical star. So it's not too bad. So generally, you have a 50% chance to generate at least 1 star per quick card uses. However, if you compare her to Jack the Ripper, as you can see, Jack has a 25.5% chance to generate a critical star and has 3 quick cards. So that is why Jack is still the best critical star generator in the game. But still, Okita is definitely a very decent servant. So let's take a look at her abilities. Increase on quick performance by 1 turn, 30 to 50%. This is definitely nice considering her Noble Phantasm is also a quick. So very solid skill there. Now her second skill, increase on critical star absorption for 1 turn. Because she is a saber, she is down on the middle tier list in critical star absorption, as we saw in my last video. So this makes it so she has a very high chance of absorbing all the critical stars she needs to perform a critical brave chain that turn. So not a bad skill, if you have the servants needed to generate the critical stars for her to use. She can generate a decent amount, but not as much as Jack. And lastly, grants evasion for 1 turn, very nice, and increase on critical damage for 3 turns. So this is essentially the exact same skill most servants have. You can either evade or use it to basically deal increased damage. So as a servant that relies on critical stars for most of her damage based on these 2 skills, she's okay, and her generation is pretty decent. Now let's take a look at the rest of her kit. Increase on DR resistance and quick performance 2%, kinda negligible, but here we go, her Noble Phantasm. Anti-unit Mystic Sword, I'm not sure what that talks about, but single target 1200 to 2000 depending on how many copies you get of her, and reduces their defense 30 to 50%, depending on overcharge and MP level and all that good stuff. So generally speaking, it'll be at level 100 because you want to use this before other Noble Phantasms to make sure those do extra damage. And the damage is definitely decent considering that's the standard damage for single target Noble Phantasms. So what is the best way to use her? Well, obviously you want to pair her up with other quick-based servants for star generation. And yeah, basically abuse her quick cards and buster cards to deal maximum critical damage. However, if you train her up with Nobunaga, they can work pretty decently well. Nobunaga supports Okita Shoji with her first skill, like this, to help her generate her MP, and then Okita generates critical stars for both of them, and then if you bring along a secondary star generator like Jack or somebody else, you can have a decent time. So as a servant, she's definitely solid. You don't absolutely need her, but with this new meta that we came in where buster focused servants aren't as effective as they used to be because of longer fights, she is definitely going up in the ranks now. Although she still isn't nearly as strong as some other servants, she's definitely worth having if you're missing a strong saber. And now with all this, both servants done, let's take a quick look at the store. So as you can see, the store is very limited, which is nice. And let's see, so this is the Eventcraft distance. Honestly, you can easily skip out on the answers, we'll go over it. These golden skulls are necessary for Nobunaga's ascension. So if you don't have her and you get your copy, make sure you fight for these as quickly as possible. Then we've got hearts, chaos claws, and all this other good stuff here. Very nice. And here we have more ascension materials. These octoblood crystals are definitely good if you don't have them yet. Is this what I think it is? Oh no, that's another event item. And general experience cards are always good. And yeah, so when it comes to the event shop, farming is relatively easy. Because we don't really need to get this event essence, you can focus on whatever it is you need, either the Nobunaga Ascension materials or everything else. But let's take a look at the craft essence. It is that one? Yes. As you can see, here's a little drawing. So as you can see, it really isn't that good. It increases critical damage by 15% and increases MP damage by 15%. A pretty lackluster craft essence, if we're perfectly honest. Because this was one of the first events, this was one of the first things people got, and I think this is actually even inferior to some of the 4-star essences we now have, or even some of the 5-star event essences like Halloween Princess and such. Now it can still have some uses, but there are definitely better options out there these days. So passing on the event craft essence is definitely something you can easily do. All the rest is definitely something you should definitely go for. Go for the Altic crystals, go for the mana prisms. If you're missing some of the very special limited Da Vinci Shop craft essences like personal training or personal lessons, it's definitely useful to get the mana prisms, especially considering that at the beginning of each month we get you can buy 5 summon tickets and I believe 25 golden experience embers. So yeah, the GudaGuda Re-Lite is definitely not a bad event, especially since it's your good chance to get your copy of Nobunaga if you don't have her. If you do have her, then you can take it a lot easier like I will and just focus on getting all the essential materials from the store. And basically have a nice relaxing time before we actually get the new event next month. I believe that will be, so we're getting this on Tuesday, and it's going to run, how long is it going to last? Until the 27th. Okay, so about 2 weeks. That means probably on either the 2nd or the 5th of April we are getting the new version of the event with a new servant, but we'll talk about that when we get to that time. So anyway, thanks for watching and we will see you next time.